Well, there you have it. Alexander Isak has gone bonkers. That's right. If you thought what he'd done up till now had been disrespectful, just wait until you hear what he had to say today. That he is now adamant that he will never play for Newcastle United again, regardless of whether he gets a move away or not. Absolutely madness. We will talk about that in today's video as well. Newcastle continue to press on and try and bring in a replacement for Isak. News on both Wizza and Samu in this video as well. Newcastle push to bring in a new centre midfielder. Reports yesterday that Newcastle were opening talks with Leicester over El Khanous. Well, reports this morning that Newcastle have also opened talks with Aston Villa over 24-year-old Jacob Ramsey. Yes, guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Toon Tuesdays, your weekly roundup of Newcastle United news. As I mentioned last week, I think the only difference between this video and every other video I'm doing at the moment is that I just do that little rhyme at the start about it being a Tuesday, because let's be honest, it is a daily news roundup at the moment because there is so much going on in the world of Newcastle. So if you are enjoying the weekly Toon Tuesdays or the daily roundups, drop a like and subscribe. I will also use the chance to throw my own little advertisement in. I am doing the Great North Run in just about a month's time now. Loads of you guys have donated. I really, really appreciate it. I am working hard on it. It's hot. I did my first 10K in under an hour the other day, which was a personal best for me, so I was really happy about that. So yeah, if you want to try and help support me and the Royal National Institute of the Blind, the link is in the description. So help the guy out. Try and help me hit my target for donating. And let's start off by talking about Newcastle opening talks with Aston Villa over Jacob Ramsey. I am sat out here in the lovely sunshine. Thought, you know what, a little bit of negative news on Isak. May as well get a bit of sun on my face. If you can hear it, there is someone racing around on a dirt bike in the background over there. Obviously enjoying a little bit of sunshine as well. Hopefully the noise is okay. But yes, as I say, reports coming out yesterday that Newcastle were linked with Leicester midfielder El Khanous. The 21-year-old has reportedly got a £25 million release clause. Both Leeds and Spurs have also been linked to the player. And it's one that I was really quite excited for actually yesterday when the news broke. I think he isn't a player that typically suits our style of play. Newcastle are very regimented in the middle with a lot of like attacking through the wing play. Gordon on the left, Elanga on the right hand side. I think El Khanous sits in as more of that kind of maybe free-flowing, exciting midfielder in the middle, which when Newcastle are playing maybe a team with a low block or maybe a team where we have a lot of possession, having the ability to bring on someone just that little bit more free-flowing, a little bit more dynamic could really suit us. However, as much as I like it, it isn't always necessarily what Eddie Howe might like. We know Eddie Howe is a lot more regimented, and I think, if I'm honest, a player like Jacob Ramsey probably suits our style that little bit more. And reports coming out from The Athletic this morning, David Ornstein bomb, that Newcastle have opened talks with Villa and are now discussing a fee to try and sign the player. So as I mentioned, similar to Malik Chow, who we are still waiting for an announcement on. I mean, he's the reports out of both. I mean, he's agreed deals. He's at the training ground, but yet Newcastle need to get a video from, you know, Gary from Blythe to tell us how much he loves them before obviously they can release the video, because that's how we do things up here for some reason. But yeah, Jacob Ramsey is a player that has been linked for some time now. It was a player that Eddie Howe were keen on. Reports were actually that Newcastle were going to make a move for him fairly early this window before the PSR deadline, because obviously Aston Villa are having PSR issues. Reports are that Villa brought in an 80 million loss. Because of that, they were then fined by UEFA for not meeting their PSR, because obviously your Europe PSR and Premier League PSR is different. So I think they just get away with it in the Premier League, but then they have to pay the fine for UEFA. So basically, I think as much as they are still targeting players themselves, in fact, quite a few Aston Villa fans this morning were like, well, if Ramsey goes, maybe we could go for El Khanous. So there's a kind of, and there's a bit of a, obviously a bit of chopping and changing there, which we'll get onto with Wizza in a moment, because string just continues to get longer and longer and as we try to sign that player. But I like Ramsey, 24 years old. Reports are that he has expressed a desire to actually leave Aston Villa, having started, I think, less than 50% of their games last season. Still made a hell of a lot of appearances, still made one in the Champions League, but it just isn't getting the game time there. I mean, if I'm honest, you may need to have a quick look around because I don't know that he would get ahead of Bruno Tonali and Joe Linton either, but bearing in mind Newcastle have very little depth in that department, and should he join with Joe Linton, let's be honest, who misses quite a few games a season with Champions League, Premier League and Cup games, I think he probably will get more game time at Newcastle than maybe he would at Villa coming up. So yes, there's an interest from us there. There's an interest from him looking to maybe move to go and get extra game time. I think the article actually says that there's an interest from Eddie Howe that the feeling's mutual. So it seems that maybe it's always helpful when the player's potentially keen on the move. But as I say, it's not just us who are interested. West Ham have been linked as well. And when Villa are potentially going to have to be fairly reasonable with the price in order to help with PSR, that's a situation that I don't mind. El Kanous linked to 25 million release clause. I think Ramsey's a little bit higher. You're looking at kind of 35 million. So we will wait and see. If Ramsey's a player you would be interested in, drop a like on this video, let me know. And then, as I say, Newcastle's still pushing to try and bring that striker in. So that's the one thing Alexander Isak cannot say, is that Newcastle have tried. We've even linked with loads of players. Wizza is so close, as reported, that essentially he has agreed terms. He wants to go to Newcastle. There was links to say that he actually said to Liverpool that he wasn't interested. Apparently Liverpool were interested, but he wanted to move to Newcastle. I think probably because he knows he won't get a game there. He knows if he goes to Newcastle, he'll walk straight in the first team because we have no strikers. So yes, good thinking, Wizza. I like it. But yes, the trouble is, however, despite Brentford are open to letting us pay the fee, Wizza's open to letting us move there. Brentford don't want to let Wizza go until they've got a replacement. So they've been looking at Atara from Bournemouth. So the reports are that he has essentially agreed to join Brentford, but Bournemouth now don't want to sell him until they've brought in a replacement. So the line just continues to grow on this one. Reports actually are that Brentford have opened their search and are looking at is it Kalimuendo? They're looking at him now as well, who has been linked with a few different Premier League sides. So yes, Newcastle, in terms of getting Wizza over the line, are pretty much ready as soon as Brentford are happy to let the player go. Different situation to Newcastle and Isak, because if Isak does end up staying, they'll still have, in January he'll have 2.5 years left. At the end of the summer he'll have two years left. Brentford, however, if they don't let him go this summer, will have 1 year left, and then he'll have 6 months left in January where he can potentially sign a contract to leave for free. So Brentford's a bit of a different scenario as to whether they might actually, even if they don't get a replacement, go, screw it, we need to let him go because we'll get nothing for him. However, you have to say that Brentford are really trying their best to be in a relegation fight next year, having sold some really key players, and letting go of their top striker would really not help either. So that's when they have to really decide, fair enough, we don't get 40 million for him, but is the club going to lose 100 million if we get relegated because we've got no players? So yes, interesting one on that one. Is Wizza still a player you would like to see? Drop a like on this video. But as I've mentioned, it is once again that man, Alexander Isak, who is getting all of the media attention this morning, as it's reported that he is adamant that he will not play for Newcastle United again, even if he doesn't get the move to Liverpool this summer window. No, you can't. It's dead end. No, it's round there and back around, yeah. No worries. Enjoying the sunshine. Nice and warm. Well, there you go. There's 3 Geordie lads, all tatted up with their Newcastle badges on, out enjoying a little bit of sunshine on a walk. So there you go. A little bit of an impromptu one there. Should get them on, see what they think about Alexander Isak. I'm sure they're not happy about it either. I think they found their way around. Anyway, reports are that Alexander Isak has come out and said that he has no intention to ever play for Newcastle United again. And as I said at the start of this video, being a little bit jokey, saying that he's basically gone bonkers. I honestly don't know. And the media switched this morning. You've seen it. You know, a lot of the attention has been on Newcastle up to this point. Well, they've said they were going to let him go. They were going to do this, and I just think that the compiling of constant stories of why Isak's going to do this, why he's going to do that, continuously pushing. You know, in my eyes, he's done enough at this point. People understand where he is in his situation. Undoubtedly, Newcastle have tried to bring someone in. Liverpool have not made any more bids. The situation essentially hasn't changed. But for Isak to continue to really, really push the button to try and force this move is ridiculous. If Liverpool had placed a £150 million bid, and Newcastle were like, look, we're trying to find a situation here. We're trying to find you a move out of the club. Then I guess I wouldn't agree with what he's doing, but he's obviously pushing to try and get it. He's trying to push really hard for a move that actually isn't available right now. Like, it isn't there. There is no bid. There is nothing for Newcastle to do differently. Newcastle aren't going to just be like, yeah, okay, we'll rip your contract in half and you can leave then. Like, that situation doesn't exist. He has a 3-year deal with the club. And honestly, it's really making it a situation where if this move doesn't go through, he has found himself in just the most impossible position. I don't know if it's Alexander Isak who is actually this naive and this daft, honestly. The guy who, you know, was doing Geordie accents this time last year, and literally just 3 or 4 months ago did an interview in Sweden with the international squad and said, you know, that he had no intention to leave and he was very happy. So fair enough, you might say one thing to the media than you do behind closed doors. You know, I'm not naive or daft enough to realise that I think Newcastle probably have gone back on their word. You know, you never know. Eddie Howe or whoever might have gone, oh yeah, you can leave, but only if we don't get Champions League, or only if we get offered the money that we're happy with. You know, this idea of an agreement that he told us he was going to leave previously, well, we don't know the ins and outs of that one. What we do know is that he signed on a dotted line for a contract. Fair enough, he might have had an agreement where, oh, we're going to give you more money. Fair enough, he might have been let down by a man, Staveley and Paul Mitchell. You know, there's lots of wrongdoings here. And I think Newcastle were trying to make up for it. We're trying to offer him an extended deal. We're trying to say, look, we're going to give you 50 grand an extra a week, maybe a little signing on bonus, and then next summer, a £100 million release clause. Or 100 million if you go to a team in Europe. 120 if you want it to be an English side. But clearly there was a move there to try and keep Isak happy, and he has just totally rejected it. And should he end up staying, which at this moment in time looks more and more realistic, I even think if we sign Wizzer, that won't be enough. I think Newcastle will want to look at Samu, or another striker who is still being linked to Newcastle, but at crazy prices. The link to Samu coming in is that essentially they want the release clause, which is 80 million. And fair enough, he scored a lot of goals. Fair enough, he scored more goals than Isak did when we bought him. But it was a different league. And let's be real, Nunes scored a lot of goals. And they paid 100 million for him. And now he's off to Saudi for 40 million 3 years later. So there is no... And Eddie Howe has got his list. And Eddie Howe's been down that list many, many times. And we are at the very bottom of that list and are really struggling. The fact that Newcastle are even entering conversations on the likes of a Samu shows me that we are keen, and it would be a lot easier for the club for Isak to leave. But I just think the levels of disrespect now have just become out of this world. I continue to remain adamant that the best thing is that Newcastle should sell Isak. We should sell him. We should find a replacement which would let him go. If anything, so that I don't have to do a video about Isak every time he scores a goal every weekend, because every time he walks on a pitch, it's going to be, well, here's Isak, we know he doesn't want to be here, well, Isak scored, but he doesn't want to be here, literally talking about it until the January window. The best thing for us, for everyone involved, is just get the money, find people who want to be here, and we'll move on with our lives. But it's realistic that it's a hard thing to do, and it's still down to the owners, and I don't think they have the same viewpoint as anybody else. As I've mentioned, I think the Newcastle owners have been made to look like fools this window because of how much Liverpool's owners have got in the heads of our players and have basically just ran ran all over our summer. I still stand adamant, by the way, that Liverpool signed Ekitike. He was the player that was going to let us sell you Isak. He was the player that was going to allow us to sell Isak to Liverpool. And they went, well, it's fine. We're going to, if you won't sell us Isak, then we'll buy his replacement. It's like, what? Is that the most backwards thing ever? And then by all intents and purposes, he's looked quite good. So, yes, thoughts and comments on Isak. Won't really double down on that one too much. The house stuff is an interesting one. Reports are that Isak's now put his house up for sale to get out of Newcastle. Contradicting reports on that one, because his house has been up for sale for absolutely ages. Let's not forget that he had someone break into his house not that long ago, and I think he basically wanted to move. So I think he was probably going to go move house anyway, even if it was somewhere else in Newcastle, probably to a gated community or something, just so he feels a little bit safer, which, you know, he's got the money for it. He hasn't got the money, he couldn't move. He hasn't got the money, we've not paid 150 grand a week, wasn't enough. That's why he needs to go to Liverpool so he can buy his extra padlocks. But yeah, no, all joking aside, obviously it's not a good situation. And if he wants to move house, that's absolutely on him. Some of the media articles today saying, oh, it's because he's ready to go to Liverpool. Well, no, his house was probably up for sale before the season even ended. So I think people have been a little bit naughty with that one. But for all intensive purposes, yeah, the house has been up for sale for a while. If he ends up selling it and going to Liverpool, then it's just been a happy coincidence. But I don't think that was ever the situation. And yeah, it's just really getting long in it. This one, and as I say, Isak he's just only making enemies at the moment. Within Newcastle, and if he does end up staying, is seriously that he will never play for us? He's got a contract. Are you telling me he's going to go and sit and not get paid? The owners, that's what I was going to say. The owners, I can still see them holding out regardless. You know, whoever's feeding Isak this information that he might leave this summer, I think is absolutely bonkers. That was the word I used at the start. It's the one I'll use again. Everybody else in the world can see that Newcastle are trying to make this happen. Everyone else in the world can see that Newcastle are failing because teams can't buy anyone. And yet, Isak taking this double down after what the club did for him, made them the player he is. What Eddie Howe did for him. And look, Isak's done it himself. I think Isak's worked hard and is a very talented player, but there's got to be some give and go here, and Isak is really ruining the respect and probably the legacy that he's had, not just at Newcastle, but I think in the footballing world. I think the media angles changed this morning from, oh, they should let him go, to all of a sudden, no. Actually, you're behaving like a bit of an idiot, is the word I'll use there. All right, guys, thanks for watching. As always, drop a like, subscribe if you have enjoyed this video. Just waffling on in the sun about Newcastle. Shame there couldn't have been some better news, but I think the Ramsey and Karius ones are good news. It's just that Isak continues to rumble on. So thoughts and comments on him. Thank you for watching as always, guys. As I mentioned, subscribe if you haven't already. If you're still watching, you want to help me support my great North Run effort, then the link is in the description. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you later.